Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the live. Today we are talking about witch tips that actually do work, particularly if you're a beginner, so that there's no overwhelm. So, welcome to those of you who are on the live now. Welcome to those of you watching the replay. So, most witches are feeling overwhelmed, okay? Particularly in this day and age of the internet, all of the information out there. So, there's a lot of confusion. You're possibly afraid of doing things wrong as well, because there's also a lot of myths associated with witchcraft and a lot of old superstitions also associated with witchcraft. So you may wonder too, am I even really a witch? What do I need to be able to do and be to be a witch? Do I need tools? Do I need a label, like a particular type of witch? Do I need a special gift, like being particularly psychic? And so I'm going to show you why being a beginner is actually one of the most powerful stages that you can be in your witchcraft journey. And we're going to bust some myths also that are holding a lot of new witches back. So welcome to the live stream. Hello, Steve. How are you? Merry meet. Hello, Art of Joy. Merry meet. And welcome. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sandra. I've been helping beginner witches and also witches who've been on the trail for quite some time, but just want to go deeper into the practice to actually move away from the confusion or just moving away from not knowing, how do you deepen a practice into confidence. And with that sort of simple, practical, and also mystical approach to witchcraft. So I've been practicing for about 35 years now. And I still remember when I first started out, when I was first beginning the craft, I didn't really know what witchcraft was all about either. I didn't have the information that you all have now. The internet wasn't around then. And so I was learning from books before I found a coven and people who could actually teach me from their own experience. So I remember being hungry for information and hungry for knowledge and just wanting to read all I could about the craft and find out as much as I could and how to practice the craft and actually start doing stuff as well. So I do know what that feels like, and trying to sift through all of the information out there and just put it in a form that you can start learning from. Now, I had to piece it all together from books, and I ended up creating a structure for myself so that I had a beginning, a middle, and an end of my learning. And I found that made it easier to learn. So, for those of you who are beginning and you're overwhelmed by all of the information out there, you want to know where to start. You want to know, well, how can I bring all of this information into my practice step by step by step by step without having to learn it all at once? I have a free masterclass called How to Start Your Witchcraft Practice. And in that masterclass, I show you how you start at the very beginning with energy work and then add to it over, say, the course of a year, different bits and pieces of the craft so that you're not trying to learn everything all in your very first month, and just pace yourself along the way. So there's a link in the description field below this video for where you can pick up that free masterclass. So do that at the end of this video. And you can also find it on my website, mysterywitchschool.com. Okay, merry meet, merry meet. I am so surprised to make a live. Okay, Chemical Squirrel. Present and accounted for. Great, Toby. I almost feel like we have too much information. That's what I have been struggling with, knowing what is good and what's not. Yep, absolutely agree with that. Chemical Squirrel. Merry meet, Andrew. Holiday greetings. Yes, holiday season. So some holidays coming up, which is always a good thing. So we're going to talk about some of the myths. I'm going to give you about 10 myths associated with witchcraft, particularly when you're starting out. Then what being a beginner witch actually means. So what does it mean to be a beginner witch or a newbie witch, or a baby witch, as some people call it? And some of the 5 foundational skills to begin with, as well as mistakes to avoid. And then we'll just do a simple mini grounding ritual, which is really the best place to start in the craft. That's where I started our high priest in my first coven taught us what he called centering at the time, and it was very much grounding and centering with the chakras. And that was one of the most important rituals I think we ever learned, because it was so important for the magic and also important for all of the other things that you end up doing as you're practicing the craft. So we'll start there. I'm also the author of Crafting Your Wiccan Path. So if you want to read a book on Wicca and witchcraft from my experience in the way that I teach, you can find the link in the description field below the video to Amazon. Now, that's the amazon.com. If you're in another country like the UK or Australia or Canada, you'll have to go to the Amazon in your country. So in my case, it's amazon.com.au. Tictome, I will always be a baby witch. Okay. Hi, Dwight. How are you? Awesome. So let's begin. Let's talk about the myths, because there's a lot of them. So, myth number one, and it's not in order of importance either, it's just this happens to be myth number one. You can have all the tools, you must have all of the tools to start. A lot of books on Wicca and witchcraft, and this was so when I was starting out, told you that there's these four main tools that you need to have in order to be able to create a circle, to do your rituals, and to do your magic. And that was the athame, the wand, the pentacle, and the cup or chalice. And while these tools, witches' tools, are very are wonderful to work with and are symbols of modern day witchcraft, particularly of a more Wiccan variety, and they're great to use and they look great and they're fun. You don't actually need them to start out with. And you don't need to spend a lot of money on these to start out with either, if you do want to acquire your tools. You can make your own. You can source them from even secondhand stores. I'm not saying that you'd want to source an actual athame or a wand or something somebody has used as a tool for witchcraft from secondhand point of view. But if you're just looking for a standard dagger that you can use, or a cup, or something you can fashion into a wand, you can always cleanse the energy from those items so that you can then use them for yourself, energetically speaking. When I first started, I converted just a kitchen knife into an athame. When I joined the coven, I ended up with a letter opener as an athame. So you can use things like that, so you're not having to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Athames back in the 90s when I first started out were really expensive and very, very hard to get. Witch shops just really weren't around. There was one down in Byron Bay, but there wasn't anything where I lived. So I had to source my own, and my cup that I got from a secondhand store for about, I think, $2. I still use that ceramic cup. And any other tools, I used a ceramic bowl that I got from a secondhand store as my burning bowl or as my cauldron. And I just used what I could find, because at the time I didn't have a lot of money. And I even created my own pentacle from cardboard. So it wasn't the copper that it's traditionally supposed to be, but it worked. I charged everything up and I used those tools, and they worked just fine. They didn't have to be these expensive things. I still use just a ceramic pentacle that I got as a coaster with a dragon set that had pentacle coasters. I use that as my pentacle. I haven't gone to great expense, even with my tools today. My athame was given to me as a birthday gift, and I did purchase my wand though. But prior to that, I was just using twigs that I found on the ground, and then I just decorated them and used them as my wand. So you can be as creative as you want if you do want to use tools. But at the beginning, if you're drawing a circle, you can use your two fingers to project energy out of, because an athame or a wand is really just an extension of your arm anyway, much like a musical instrument is the extension of your body. So you're going to be projecting your energy into a wand or an athame anyway. So when you're first starting out and you're wanting to create a circle, or you're just wanting to project energy out, you just use your fingers and feel that energy going all the way out your fingers. It's the best place to start. And you could just use a standard cup as your chalice or cup. Just any old mug will do at the beginning. And if you want to have a pentagram or a pentacle, just draw one on some paper and some awesome cardboard and use that to start off with. It doesn't have to be these elaborate things to begin with. So myth number 2, you need to follow one specific tradition or label, as I call it. You don't need to choose between being a Wiccan or a green witch or a hedge witch or a this witch or a that witch, a lunar witch or whatever witch out of the gate. And you don't need to choose any time at all. You could be in the craft for 35 years like I have and not really feel that you have a label. I sort of see myself as being quite eclectic. I don't tend towards pigeonholing myself. A lot of the work that I do and the way that I teach comes from a Wiccan background for sure. And it is within a Wiccan structure, but it's within that form and structure that I learned when I first started out in the craft, because that came from a Wiccan structure. My high priest and high priestess came out of a Wiccan structure, even though my high priest ended up moving away from Wicca and just ended up calling himself an occult witch. That structure was still there. So I teach from a Wiccan base and a Wiccan structure, and that creates just a nice form to learn the craft within. And having a form does help. It does help to practice within a form. You don't have to label yourself any kind of witch at all. You don't even need to call yourself a witch if you don't want to do that. You could call yourself a magic worker or a magician or a wizard or cunning folk. Whatever you want to call yourself is fine. You don't have to do the labeling thing. So don't worry about, am I a green witch? Am I a hedge witch? Am I a Wiccan witch? Don't worry about that to begin with. I have a video coming out, I think it's in a couple of weeks, on various different types of witch. So do keep a lookout for that. And I will be talking about what a Wiccan witch is, what a green witch is, and what a hedge witch is. So myth number 3, this is something I've heard from people around the place, that you have to be vegan or vegetarian to be a witch. That certainly isn't traditional. Especially when you're living off the land, or you're living in a place where you were providing for yourself, which people were doing even in the 1800s in villages and places like that. There are no dietary requirements at all to be a witch. Even if you're following a Wiccan tradition with the "and it harm none," you cannot survive on this planet without harming something. It's just the way it is on this planet. Things die in order for other things to live, and that's just how it is. And as a witch, one of the most important things is to face reality and to understand how nature works and how we as animals work within nature as well. Understand our dietary needs as a species, where we've come from historically as a species, what we need biologically as a species, because all species have a species-specific diet. So I'm not going to go into what my philosophy is around that, but I'm just going to say that you need to understand yourself as a biological being, that you are an animal, and diet is something that is for your health and for your ability to have the energy to do magic and to do the things you want to do. Your health is the most important thing to you. You can't do magic when you're not healthy. It's very hard. You can't have a joyful, happy life when you're struggling with physical ailments all the time, because you're not eating a nourishing, proper human diet. So do your research there and understand that planet Earth is a place where things have to die in order to be eaten, including our plant brothers and sisters. our poor plant brothers and sisters who get eaten alive and also have defense mechanisms. So you have free choice as to what you choose to do to nourish your body and to try and minimize the harm that you're doing. Okay. There is ethical animal farming. There are ethical ways to eat. And we have to think about those ways of eating that reduce the harm as much as we can while we still maintain our own lives and health. So, diet is not something that is specific in witchcraft, apart from don't harm yourself by what you eat. Myth number 4, you need a dedicated altar or a witch room. You don't. You don't have to have a special altar. A lot of people are in places where they can't expose the fact they're practicing. You might be in a dormitory, or you might share a room with somebody or a space with somebody, and you can't have your own altar. That's okay. Some people have altars in a drawer, so they just pull the drawer out and they've got things in their drawer that they're using for their rituals, for their magic. Other people just put all of their tools into a bag and then just spread them out on the ground when they're wanting to practice. I've certainly done that. When I first started the craft, I was living at home with my mother, and she's a Catholic, so I didn't have an altar. I just had my stash. And when I was doing rituals, I would pull the stuff out and just do it on the floor. So you don't need to have a dedicated altar. It's great to have one. And as you progress and as you get more of your own space, you can certainly have your own altar then. You may end up with altars in various different rooms. I've got an altar in the main area where I work, which is where I used to do my videos, the very early videos. I have another one in here where I do the videos now. And I've got ritual bits and pieces and deity statues and all sorts of things scattered throughout my home. So as you get your own space more and more, you'll be able to spread out and have your sacred objects around you. But if you're just starting out and you are confined to what you can have out, then don't worry about not having an altar. Just have your tools. It could just be a candle and a candle holder and a special altar cloth that you use, or a special tile that you use, and just bring that out when you're doing your rituals. Myth number 5 is that real witches feel intuitive and powerful all the time, and this certainly isn't true. We don't feel powerful and intuitive all the time. We're human beings and life happens, and, witches can sometimes fall into self-doubt. No matter how long you've practiced for, you can go through periods of self-doubt. Sometimes magic doesn't work as well as it has in the past because there's things going on in your life that are causing you to be focused more on limitations and doubts. Things can come up from the past, and life will often bring you things to help you grow and learn. And if you haven't done your shadow work, you can go through periods where you do feel like you don't have any intuitive power anymore or any ability to do magic anymore, just simply because there's stuff to work on. So you don't have to feel powerful to be a witch. Witches don't have special powers. Some people are better at some things than others. Some are particularly psychic. Other people are really good at doing magic. Other people are great at being able to do divination using cards or the I Ching. We've all got our talents. Some people are great at healing. Some people are wonderful at mixing herbs and things together for health and healing and spell work. And so you'll find that you'll have a particular talent for a few things, and other things you may not have any talent for really at all naturally. You might have to work at. So don't think that you've got to feel powerful all the time or that witches have special powers. The powers that we have are powers all human beings have. It's just we're working with those powers where most people don't work with them. Okay, let's go to the comments. Aren't those tarot suits? Yes, tarot suits. I'm not quite sure what you're referring to there. The tarot suits. Oh, yes, the tarot suits with the tools, the wand, the pentacle, the athame, and the cup are they do correspond to the tarot. Absolutely. That in witchcraft comes out of the Golden Dawn. So that's something that was inherited from the Golden Dawn, those four symbols. And I think the Golden Dawn probably inherited those symbols from previous magical orders as well. Okay. Hello, Mystic Light Warrior. I've never heard of anathema. Can you explain what that is? Anathema is a dagger. So it's spelled Athame. And some people pronounce it as athame, and we use it to cut through energy or to even project energy. So it's a dagger. Which? Yes. Is orgone associated with the craft at all? The pyramid seems so ancient and usable. No, not associated with Western witchcraft at all. People do use pyramid energy in the New Age, and some witches do use it, but it's not particular to witchcraft. Now, myth number 6, you're doing magic wrong if you don't see instant results. Magic is a skill, okay? And your results will vary. Even when you're experienced, results will vary. You do need to have patience. You do need to be consistent with your practice. Your energy work, for example, learning how to use your imagination to be able to not just visualize, but to also hear in your imagination, touch in your imagination, smell in your imagination, so that you can create a living experience, a phenomenological experience of your ritual, even if you're just doing it in your imagination, to be able to experience the end result of your spell work as if it's really happening. And your imagination allows you to do that. So we do train to get better at visualization, better at using the auditory imagination, better at the sensate or touch imagination, and smell imagination, and even taste. You can bring taste into your imagination and imagine yourself tasting something. And we practice doing that so that when we're doing a spell, we can put ourselves into the end result as if it's already happening. So if you're doing a spell to go on a cruise or something, you might want to imagine that you're standing on the deck, you're looking out at the ocean, you can smell the salt water, and you can hear what might be going on around you on that deck, to make the experience as real as you can in your imagination, so that your subconscious mind thinks it's already experiencing that and believes that it's already happening. And that incorporates that experience into your identity. And the more that you do that, the more you become the person who is having that experience. And that's where that experience then manifests from there. You don't need to see instant results. Magic takes its time. You may do something that manifests before you even start doing the spell. You've had an idea, you're thinking about the spell, and then it happens. If something's more difficult to manifest, then it may take a lot longer, and you may need to do some shadow work and some identity shifting work to actually become the person that can have the thing you truly, truly want, because not all magic is available to you. You have to become the person who has the result before you can have the result. Magic can help you do that. But if you're somebody who is struggling really hard, say financially, and your vision is to live in a mansion where you're a multimillionaire, then that's a big jump. And whilst people do become multimillionaires overnight through lotto and things, it's more rare for it to happen that way, and you can certainly aim to have that as a goal, but it may take you quite a while to get there because it's a big shift in identity from being someone who struggles with money to being somebody who doesn't struggle with money and has all the money in the world that they want. But persevere with your goals nonetheless, as difficult as they may be, as unbelievable as they may be, still persist with them, but also follow the magical crumbs that magic leads you to step by step by step. So if you are wanting to become a multi-millionaire, for example, magic may not bring you the millions all at once through a lotto win, but what it can bring you is some ideas that you could perhaps pursue and implement to maybe start a business that could have the potential to make you a multimillionaire. Magic can do that kind of thing. Myth number 7 is that spell work replaces inner work. Now, spells do support change, but traditionally, spells are kind of feels like a spell is supposed to bring an outer change, that you're trying to force your will upon the world. And while that can work to some extent, particularly with things that are easy to manifest because you don't have any resistance to having those experiences, a lot of the spell work that you may be doing, again, to become that multimillionaire, if that's the case, can be blocked by simply your beliefs about yourself and what you deserve and what you can have and what you can't have and what you should have and what you shouldn't have. So, spell work, whilst it's great to bring you things like parking spaces and small things, it may not bring you the big, big, big things until you do the inner work, until you become the person who knows how to manage money, for example, if money's a thing that you're wanting to bring more of, till you learn how to be a multimillionaire, how to think like a multimillionaire, how to actually become the type of person that becomes a multimillionaire, so that you can keep the multi-millions even if you did win the lotto. You need to be the person that has that experience and be the person where that experience is normal, a normal experience. So the shadow work is really important, the inner work is important to so that you can become the person you're wanting to be, so that you can have the experiences you're wanting to have. Spell work can help you with that, but it's not necessarily going to bring you that unless you do some of the inner work and some of the inner change as well. Myth number 8, you can't blend witchcraft with science or logic. With neuroscience and psychology, you certainly can. We know more about how the brain works and how the subconscious mind works, and spell work does feature into reprogramming the subconscious mind and also other techniques that we use in witchcraft to help change the way that we think and feel about ourselves. There's also quantum physics, so there's a lot of connection between quantum physics and identity shifting and magic. So there is the realization now that we don't just live in a dense material world, that everything is energy, and that we do have the ability through our consciousness, changing our perception, changing our beliefs, to be able to create a world, an energetic world that we truly want to live in. So we know a lot more about psychology. We know a lot more about the quantum field than maybe we did 200 years ago. So it doesn't necessarily uh, go against any science or any logic. But don't get limited by science logic. Science is changing all the time. Science is never a totally 100% infallible thing. Scientists change their mind all the time. New theories come along, new theories are proven. It's a constant change. Science is not something that should be set in stone. I know a lot of scientists do want to be set in stone, and it's very difficult for scientists when they do break through with new discoveries and new theories to actually be able to create that change in the scientific community, because the scientists are just as ideological as everybody else. And it's very difficult sometimes to be innovative in science because people want to be rigid with it. But we are discovering new things all of the time, and scientific beliefs that were held in the past are now being totally changed simply from more of a quantum science perspective. Myth number 9, you must pick a deity right away. No, you don't. I didn't pick a deity right away. It took me 10 years before I actually worked with a deity. I was referring to the goddess in general and the god in general, and I just worked with the god and goddess in general. I didn't see them as being, Freya and Odin or Diana and Apollo or any particular deity. I was just working with the goddess and god energy. Myth number 10, you must be born gifted to be a witch. Everyone is gifted. Everyone has gifts and when it comes to magical superpowers, and you just got to find what your gift is. And that's something that you do as you explore the craft. You find what your gifts are. You discover them. And you don't have to know what they are straight out of the gate. You may not know what they are straight out of the gate. You probably have some connection to your childhood, so there may be some things in your childhood that you remember experiencing. Maybe you had some precognition in childhood, so you were good at being able to feel into the future and things that were going to happen. Maybe you felt like you could connect with the dead as as a child. Maybe you did see spirits. Maybe you did see guides when you were a child. If you think back to your childhood, what were you good at from a psychic perspective? And that can help you understand what your more natural inclination is when it comes to the things that witches do. Okay. Athame, tool used to create boundaries and cut to create doorways for circles. Yep. That's one of the things that it does. Yeah, we'd use it a lot for circle casting and also banishing negative energy and cutting through energy. What are the simplest, fastest ways to consult the tarot deck for a beginning magical worker if they've never used it before? Simplest, fastest ways? Storytelling method. Think of every picture in the tarot deck as telling part of a story because the suits all tell a story. From ace through to 10, you can tell a story. And practice doing that first with the minor arcana of just telling stories, picking random cards, putting them together, and telling a story based on the characters and what those characters look like to you, what you feel they're doing, the way they're facing each other, uh, and play with it more from your own imagination point of view to get used to how the cards work. That would be the best place to learn rather than trying to learn all of the meanings of the cards all at once, because that will take a while. Play with the pictures and tell stories with them, and then you'll get more of an intuitive feel to what the cards are like and the types of stories that they do tell. I do have a course called The Confident Tarot Reader where I teach you how to actually do that and how to do that when it comes to actual readings as well. So you can find the link to that course in the description field below the video and also on my website as well. Okay. So section number 2, what being a beginner witch actually means. So if you're starting out in the craft, what it means is that you're a curious person. You believe that there's more to this physical world, so-called physical world, than meets the eye. You believe there's more to life than what you've been told. And you're courageous to explore something that goes outside of the norm of thinking. You're exploring other possibilities. You're learning about your energy. You're learning about energy in general, how everything is energy, and experiencing how you work with energy, how you sense energy, becoming more intuitive to the energy around you, and experimenting with things, experimenting with different types of magic, different concepts, and finding out what resonates with you and what doesn't resonate with you. And you're building more of a sense of your true self, your true magical self, your true you, the being that came here to have an experience in the material world, who has forgotten that you can actually create the experience that you're wanting to have in this material world. And at the beginning, you're forming your foundations. And you don't need to know everything in the very, very beginning. So let me know in the comments or in the chat what's something you're curious about right now in your craft. Because we're coming up to a new year and you may want to experience that or explore that more with this coming year. So now we're going to look at the 5 foundational skills for a beginner witch. And the very first thing I like to teach is about grounding and centering, which is what was taught to me in my coven, and how important grounding and centering is. By grounding, we're talking about connecting to the energy of Mother Earth. And there's a few different ways that you can do exercises to ground yourself. And I'm going to show you that a little bit later in the live. But grounding simply means connecting to Mother Earth and feeling the energy of the earth, the weight of the earth. And what grounding does is not only allows you to be able to utilize the energy of the earth by drawing it up into your body and using it for magic and for healing or whatever, it also enables you to come out of your head and be more centered within yourself. So if you're feeling anxious or stressed in any way, that usually means your energies come up really into the head area. And by grounding, you're able to bring some of that stress down and even let it go back down into the earth. Feeling the weightedness of the earth, feeling like you're meant to be here, it's okay to be here, and that you can survive here. So grounding's really important. It gives you strength. If you've done martial arts at all, any of the martial arts, whether that's the soft style or the hard style, you will know about grounding and centering. Centering has a lot to do with the chakras and balancing your chakras as well. And it just gives you that sense of being here, being now, and connecting energetically to the energy of the planet of Mother Earth and your own energy centers. The next thing that is important is cleansing your energy and your space. You can do that with incense, even just an incense stick that you just wave around your space as you move around your space to cleanse it. We do have special directions that we use when we're cleansing a space. If you're in the northern hemisphere, you want to work clockwise around your space to cleanse it. So that's bringing in good energy. And if you are in the southern hemisphere, anti-clockwise for cleansing, because you're wanting to bring in positive energy, but you're also dispersing the negative energy at the same time. And when we set up a circle, we usually do that first. It's one of the very first things we usually do is cleanse the space and then light the candles and then start to work on constructing the circle. If you don't have incense or you can't use incense, you can also use spray. You could use a saltwater spray or just get some salt water and just flick it around your space as you're circling your space and use salt water to cleanse your space. That's a very easy way to do that. Or you could have a essential oil spray that you use to cleanse your space. So that could be any of the cleansing herbs, like it could be rosemary or bergamot or patchouli that you mix with some witch hazel and some water in a spray bottle, and then you use that as your spray to cleanse your space. And that's just breaking up all of the stale energy and any of the negative stuff that you don't want to have around, and allowing all of the good stuff to be able to settle and stay where you are. Also, being very clear in your intentions. Every day we're doing magic. And so you want to be really clear with how you think and how you feel on a daily basis and the stories you're telling yourself about yourself and the world. Know thyself is a big thing in occultism and in modern witchcraft. You need to know as much about yourself as you can. And that's not just your ego self, also your higher self, and how your ego self in its attempt to keep you safe, often sabotages you from having the life you really want to have. And that's where the shadow work comes in. So understand the stories that you might be telling yourself about who you are, where you fit in the world, what you should or what you shouldn't be doing. Understand your ideologies and where they come from, and challenge your thinking. Challenge how you think and challenge how you feel about things, because it might not necessarily be true the way that you see the world and the way that you feel about the world or yourself. It could just be programming that's coming from your past. And the more that you know about yourself, the more you can liberate yourself from any of those old beliefs about yourself and the world that have actually been holding you back and actually creating a lot more stress in your life than it needs to. So be clear in how you talk to yourself and the stories you tell yourself, so that when it comes to your intentions and the things you're wanting to do, you can be more clear in setting intentions that actually work for you, that are actually things you really want in your life and things you really want to do in your life. And you need to understand yourself in order to have that clear intention, especially when it comes to spell work. If you're wanting to do a spell for something, you need to know, well, why am I doing the spell in the first place? What am I actually wanting from this spell? And do I really want it? Or am I just thinking I want it? Or am I doing the spell because I think I have to do that spell in order to get what I want? This happens a lot with material objects. A lot of people think they have to do money spells in order to get a material object, but you don't. You just need to do the spell for the material object because that's what you want. The money is a possible way you can get that material object, but there's other ways you can get things as well. Things can come to you through other people, through other situations that don't involve you having to spend any money to get it. So if you're wanting to do a spell, make sure you're doing the spell for the thing you want. So be very clear in your intentions and learn how to be clear in your intentions. Another thing to work with when you're first starting out is to get familiar with the lunar phases. So these are the phases of the moon, where the moon goes from being the new moon through to the full moon. It then wanes and becomes the dark moon, back to the new moon again. And understanding that these cycles are about energy, the same as the solar cycle of the year is also about energy. The moon waxes and wanes, the sun waxes and wanes. And when you're doing your spell work, you want to learn to work with the energy of the moon. So if the moon is very new, so you're only just seeing that sliver in the sky, then that's a good time to do magic for new beginnings and things you're wanting to grow, things you're wanting to plant, things you're wanting to have develop and happen. The full moon, as it gets bigger, so as it waxes and gets bigger towards the full moon, you can do more spells and magic around growing things and building things. The full moon is a great time to do magic for really potent stuff. So things you're wanting to manifest in a big way. So maybe you're wanting it to manifest fast and you're wanting to put a lot of energy into that manifestation. The full moon can be used for bringing things in as well as uh, letting things go as well. And then as you go towards the waning moon, so as the moon has been full, it's now starting to go back to getting smaller and smaller in the sky again. That's where the magic to remove things, to banish things, to do all of that inner work is a great time, because you're dealing with the energy of letting go and release at that time. The dark moon, which is the phase where you can't see the moon at all in the sky, is the time for inner reflection and doing divination as well. So working with the moon and learning how the moon works is a good place to start before you start worrying about the solar energy. And keeping a book of shadows. A book of shadows is your book that has your spells in it. It has your correspondences in there. So this will be your correspondences are things like your herbs and your crystals, your colors, and anything that is corresponding to your spell results. So if you want to do a healing spell, you could work with healing herbs like rosemary. You could work with a healing color like blue or green, and you could work with healing crystals like quartz crystal or rose quartz crystal. And so in your Book of Shadows, you will have a section for your spell work, a section for your correspondences, like your herbs, your crystals, colors, and also a section for your rituals, so your Sabbath rituals. And collect all of those things in your Book of Shadows. For all of the inner work, where you're referencing, maybe you're documenting your spell work, and so you want to know how successful your spells have been, so you're documenting the results. That can go in your journal. You don't put the documentation in your Book of Shadows, you put that in your journal. The Book of Shadows is something that is a reference guide, essentially, whereas your journal is all of the stuff that's about you personally. Okay, let's go back to the comments. Um, okay. Hi, Brandon. First time done live chat. Awesome. We got to the Athame. Okay. How is the best way to confirm a deity that you think may be calling to you? Look at all the signs and symbols that may be around you and see whether that corresponds to the deity. You may have a very strong desire from your heart chakra to work with that deity too, and a curiosity towards that deity. And look for signs and symbols. So, for example, if it's Hecate, you may see triple threes or double threes a lot. You may be very, even though there may be dogs around your neighborhood normally, you may find that you're seeing more black dogs, or that all of a sudden you're noticing dogs more. You may come into contact with more dog imagery on the internet, for example. Uh, Look for whatever symbols are associated with your deity and whether they're coming up for you and how you feel about it. Do you feel like there's a message coming through visually, auditory, or from a sensate perspective, or from a cognitive perspective, that they're wanting to work with you or they're calling to you? Those kinds of things. So keep your eyes, ears, and nose out for all of the sensory things around you that can indicate that deity may be calling to you. Okay, I'm doing chakra work with an intuitive counselor here in town. It's very nice. Awesome. That sounds good. I've been into crystals for a while. I have a lot of respect for the energy centers. Yes. Chi power at times. Guru explode. Hoo hoo. So much power. Yes. Giving it back to nature. Been trying to do some third eye work myself. So your third eye work really is dependent on your lower chakras. So your lower chakras need to be cleaned up first in order for you to get the clarity on the third eye. So just remember that. A lot of people want to jump to the third eye, but it will be kind of blinkered if your lower chakras aren't resonating and aren't working or functioning as well as they could. So much energy with the full moon. You can feel it in nature like a celebration. Oh, yes, absolutely. Giving back to nature is balance. Everything is balance. Yes. I'm curious if you think it might be okay to do spell work with friends and relatives for guidance and support, even though they've passed. Yes, a lot of people work with their ancestors in magic. So if they're people that you had a really positive connection with in their physical life, then there's nothing wrong with working with them magically. Okay, a bit like a spirit guide. Yes, sometimes relatives can act as guides from time to time. Okay, so let's look at some of the mistakes to avoid. Number one, don't try to learn everything at once. You can't. Even if a book's got most of the stuff in it, you're not going to be able to learn it all at once. Just learn it bit by bit. That free masterclass that I mentioned at the beginning, how to start your witchcraft practice, that is a good place to start, because it actually gives you a blueprint as to where to start learning and then what to do next. Don't overcomplicate the rituals. Rituals can be really, really simple, and the simpler they are, often the better they are. Making it too complicated, having to have too many tools, having to have too much on your altar can get confusing, and it can also make you feel overwhelmed, which can distract you from the actual essence of the ritual. You don't need to copy other people. It's great to copy at the beginning because you're learning, so of course you're gonna copy when you're learning, but as you get more confident, you can start to experiment yourself with some things. You could add some things to the ritual or change up some things in the way that you cast a circle, for example. Forgetting to ground. Grounding is really important because it will give you that firm foundation and connection to the earth, as well as center your mind and your body so that you're working more calmly and more connected to your true self. Don't expect spells to fix emotional states. Spells can help you with emotional states. Thank you so much, Not Queen, for that super chat. Super chats are always welcome, and super thanks as well if you're watching the replay. Thank you so much for that. Um, Emotions are complicated and they're often connected to our identity. We have to fix the identity before we can really fix the emotions. We have to fix the beliefs that are causing the emotions before we can fix the emotions. Magic can help bring you to maybe a modality that can help you with that. It can bring you into a temporary relief of an emotion. And if you are doing shadow work and inner work, ritual can help you with that shadow work and that ritual work because you're incorporating it into a, a plan of action that includes doing the shadow work. But magic on its own isn't going to permanently change the way that you feel. You do have to do other things to change the way you feel. So don't expect a spell for confidence to make you confident for the rest of your life. It'll make you confident temporarily, but if you really want to be a confident person, you need to deal with the self-doubt that's actually stopping you from being confident in the first place. And that usually means working with the subconscious mind using EFT or hypnotherapy or theta healing or the silver method or whatever method you gravitate towards to change the beliefs about yourself so that you become the person that is confident. And that's changing your identity, how you identify with yourself. Don't think that there's only one correct way to do anything either. There's lots of different ways to do a spell. And you'll find that you can do things quite creatively. You can do spells on the fly. You don't necessarily need to sometimes even spend hours and hours and hours planning a spell. You could just pick up a few items and then actually go in and just do your spell and do it in the moment. Or you can go find a spell that somebody else has written and experiment with that. You could change it. You might change some of the wording. You may change some of the ingredients that they use. Use your creativity. When you're first starting out, it is good to stick to the plan or stick to the spell recipe. So if you are very, very new and you don't really know enough about correspondences or magic to be able to change things, just do whatever's written in the spell book or whatever it is that you're using to help you do your spells. And don't avoid practicing the craft because you're worried or afraid of failing. Even experienced witches sometimes give up on doing spell work because they're going through a rough patch where they're trying to bring something into manifestation, but there's so many psychological blocks to it happening that the spells just seem to be bombing out. And that can really make you feel self-doubt and can even stop you from doing magic again because you feel like you're no good at it. But it's not that you're not good at magic, it's just that you haven't found what's going on inside the psyche here that is actually causing the blockage to the magic. Different types of magic work better for different people too, just simply based on your own personality and what you like and what you don't like doing in general. If you're really into colors and you love candles, and you like inscribing on candles, maybe even decorating candles, you may find candle magic really works for you because you really enjoy it. You may find sigil magic not so enjoyable. You might find sigil magic doesn't resonate with you at all. You don't connect with sigil magic because it's quite abstract and maybe you just don't work with magic that way. Other people, it could be the reverse. Some people, candle magic just doesn't do anything, whereas sigil magic is really powerful for them and works really, really well for them. So when you're experimenting, experiment with the different types of magic that's out there and just find the ones that you enjoy doing, and you can just stick to that if you want to. Okay, so let's do a really simple grounding exercise, and then we'll come back to the comments. So just closing your eyes and making sure that you've got some part of your body connected to the ground beneath you or the floor beneath you, because that floor beneath you is representing the earth for you, even if you may be a couple of levels up in an apartment block or something like that. And it is good to do this grounding on grass or on sand or actually on the earth itself, but that's not always possible. Using your imagination, you're going to be able to draw your energy down into the ground anyway, no matter where you are. So imagine that you have roots or cords going down from your feet, if they're connected to the ground beneath you, going down, down into the earth. Or if you're sitting cross-legged on the floor, it comes from your spine and goes down, down, down into the ground. And just imagine those true roots just finding their way down all the levels, all the layers into the earth and going deep, deep, deep into the earth. And as you do that, notice how you start to sink more into the earth. That some of that energy that's up there in your head is starting to just go down your body and it's starting to settle. Like the stress energy, the anxiety energy is starting to settle more because you're focusing on your root. You're focusing on the grounding, the root chakra, grounding into the earth. And try to smell the earth. Try to smell that dirt smell that you get when you smell mud or something that's very earthy. It could be a mixture of grass and the earth. So see if you can bring the sense of smell into your experience. And you could even hear the earth, like hear the dirt perhaps, and bring your hearing into the experience too. And just feel the weight of the earth underneath you and what it feels like to be connected energetically to the earth. It's a lovely feeling. And as you ground, you can also bring up energy from the earth. So if you're feeling sluggish or you want to take some of that earth energy with you, you can draw that energy up like you're sucking up the energy of the earth through those true roots or cords like a vacuum cleaner, and you're drawing that up into your body. Most of the time we draw it right up into the crown chakra and hold it there. And you can either let that energy then come out through the crown chakra and go back down into the ground, or you can just breathe out. There's so many different ways you can do this. But just feel what it feels like to be energized by the earth itself, as on the in-breath, you're just drawing up that energy and then just allowing it to fill the body. You could sense it as maybe some light, a green light coming up from the earth. It could be a yellow light coming up from the earth. And experience that every day as your initial, very first practice. And just sense the difference it makes in your body and in your mind when you do that, because it's a really important process. It's a really important exercise to do. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to the comments before we move on. Okay, I've been trying to do third eye work. Yes, we talked about that. And crystals. I don't know what to do in my life. I'm 26. Okay, please help you. Okay, well, I do offer a free clarity session if you're wanting to do mentoring with me, like coaching with me. Uh, that would be the best place if you did want me to help you. It's very difficult to help somebody on a chat on YouTube. Okay, you must first realize you are in the driver's seat. Yes, exactly. You do. You are in the driver's seat. And if you don't know what to do with your life, don't panic about it. It's okay. There are often times in life where a lot of us don't know what we're doing. And the fact that you're now at the moment of not knowing what you're doing is actually a good place to be, because you're becoming aware that you don't know what you're doing. And that's an important place to start. So don't beat yourself up about not knowing right now. It will come. Just know that you have the ability to be able to create your own life, even if it doesn't feel like that at the moment, even if you don't believe it at the moment. You do have the ability to be able to do that, and allow yourself time to get to know more about your stories, the things that you're telling yourself. Don't worry about what you're doing with your life. You don't need to know what you're doing with your life, as in, planning the future or anything. Just try and be in the present moment with where you are now and where you'd like to be in regards to how do you want to feel. That's the place to start. How do you want to feel? And work on that to start off with. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so you don't need to fit a mold. Your practice doesn't need to look like some of the great things on Instagram or, TikTok or anything like that. You will grow and evolve over time, even if you don't know where you're going right now. That's fine. Just be in the present moment and learn all you can about yourself and your craft. And you will find that from the learning and from the experiencing and from the doing, your path will start to map itself out. Okay. You will be guided by your higher self the more you connect with who you are. So you don't need to know where you're going right now. You just need to learn as much as you can about yourself and about the craft, and the guidance will happen. You will end up somewhere. Okay. And often the path that you end up on is not necessarily the path you think you would end up on. Your style comes from experience. It doesn't come from necessarily all of the old rules or the myths that are out there at all. So, if you do want to start your witchcraft practice, if you do want some guidance, if you do want some structure, if you do want support from other people who are also on this journey with you, I do invite you to the Mystery Witch School 101 Academy. It is perfect for beginners who are ready to grow with the clarity and the confidence so that you can integrate witchcraft into your life to bring you that meaning in life and that sense of purpose in life, so that you can find your path and where you're going, and just enjoy the ride without even necessarily knowing what the outcome is, because that's the fun of it. Not knowing the outcome is kind of the fun of it. So if you're wanting to feel more empowered, if you're wanting to feel like your life has meaning, it has purpose, you want to connect to nature and yourself and spirit, the Mystery Witch School 101 Academy is all about practicing the craft to help you achieve those things. So we practice the craft because we want to feel like life has meaning, that life has purpose, that we can connect, that we can create our life the way that we would like to create it. And to understand that, there isn't this, big daddy God in the sky that's judging us all the time and pulling our strings all the time, that we have the ability to be able to connect back to our true spiritual selves and our true higher being, with the help of guides and deities to help us along and do that. So the Mystery Witch School Academy is to basically help you do that through the practices of witchcraft and an eclectic sort of Wiccan approach to the craft, using the traditional means such as circle casting, energy work, magic, working with deities, working with the lunar energies, and working with the Sabbats as well. So it's a great way to start the year if you're wanting to do that. So that's the Mystery Witch School 101 Academy, link in the description field below the video. And it's also on my website, mysterywitchschool.com, as well, if you're wanting to follow that up. Okay. Thank you, everybody. So thank you, everybody, for being here today, tonight, wherever you are. And remember that the beginner stage is not something that you need to rush through. It's just where your magic, your confidence, and your personal path are beginning. And, stay curious, stay grounded, listen to the stories you tell yourself, and start somewhere. Start with energy, start with grounding. Okay, blessed be everyone. I will see you next week for another live before Christmas. So have a wonderful week.